Warfighter, for anybody that doesn't know, is basically it's military police ranger challenge, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's team based, so you have three people, and they're working to accomplish a bunch of tasks over 4 days. You probably sleep for maybe 10 hours that whole time, and
Yeah, I don't even the year we did it, I don't even know if we got that much.
Yeah.
Because of
they lost that weapon.
Yeah, second night, that dude lost his weapon, and
In the rain.
we were trashed after that.
Yeah.
You know.
It was
Everything is physical. You're rucking everywhere. It's you're doing all these different military type tasks, and then we do that night land nav course. And I think we were one of 2 teams to even complete the night land nav course. So we were pumped up, and then we get back, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're not going nowhere until we find this weapon." So we spend all night out there.
It was freezing,
and go straight from that to when we find the weapon to now we go straight to obstacle courses.
Yeah,
that we did terrible. That the team building ones, remember, they were supposed to be team building.
Yeah, they were all.
And I was cussing the whole time.
We were all yelling at each other,
and I'm like, team building. This is like tearing our team apart right now because we couldn't. I don't think we completed one of those.
I think we got through one. It was the plank one.
Yeah,
but it was like,
well,
she had to kind of like help us through it a little. She didn't really.
Well, it was the time thing. The time limit they gave you to do it was not even enough time to even figure out how to do it, let alone accomplish it.
And
maybe that was the point of it, was to just totally try and test your team work.
I guess. But I can tell you that I was drawing the short straw on getting the dummy across the poles on the very first obstacle.
Yeah.
So like that dummy was 200 and whatever pounds, and just trying to lift him up on the pole was hard enough. And I don't even think we got him anywhere.
No, and that reminds me too, we were, I think, the first team to do it, so we didn't even get to watch anybody else do it. So we had no clue what we were doing, but we killed the obstacle course though.
Yeah, we did.
And then we go to combatives and we all got our butts kicked, but I think we were trash, man. We had nothing left in the tank at that point.
Yeah.
Anyways, you and Evan did one. That was the whole.
Yes, I did one with Evan probably 3 years before we did ours. And it was obviously us 2 and one other soldier. And we trained for 2 months, and we went out there, and we were actually doing really well. We did well on the PT test in the first day. And the second day we had to do the obstacle course, and then we had to ruck march to the second whatever location. And I think we were about, 7 or 8 miles in, and Evan couldn't, he was sweating to death, man. He was soaked.
It didn't take much for him to do that anyways. But
and he was like, "Sergeant, I can do it, I can do it." Yeah. And so we keep trying to go, and we finally stopped to eat. And as soon as we stopped and sat down, it was like he kind of curled up and
locked up in a cramp, right?
Yeah, he had cramps in his legs, and I'll never forget, his hands looked like claws because he couldn't open his hands, and he was writhing in pain. It was pretty bad. And they ended up taking him. He didn't want to go, but they ended up taking him, and he spent the last half of the challenge back at the barracks. Yeah,
he told me, which he was so disappointed. I felt bad for him because I remember one of the first things him telling me is that was like a dream. That's one thing he wanted to do. He said when he was in boot camp, it was going on, and he saw it, and that was like something he always wanted to do. So when it came up that they needed a team, he jumped on it. But I remember him telling me that when he cramped up, he was trying to, I think, talk to the medic, and he said his mouth cramped. And I'm like, I've never even heard of anybody getting a mouth cramp. I've had leg cramps, but your mouth, he's like, I was cramping everywhere. Literally my tongue, my mouth, everything cramped.
And obviously it was not funny at the time, but he was going, I
remember hearing that.
And so I gave him a hard time for that for a long time. But I think when he was in basic training, he saw me,
your first time,
Curtis and Corey doing Warfighter. That was the first one I did. And I think he told me about that. But so he was, a guy that would push himself to the limit and do whatever he could for anybody. And I think that's, we won several dodgeball championships together.
Oh yeah.
I think we won like 7 or something.
Just 6 or 7. Yeah, it was up there.
But in Afghanistan or Iraq.
Yeah.
In Iraq. But yeah, so that was the type of guy he was.
Right.
I mean, to me.
And then obviously, he's the motivation for me for sure. And I mean, he's the direct motivation for me as far as that's the individual I think of. I think you have a couple that you served with that ended up committing suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, when we were on our way into Iraq, I was at the PX and I saw one of my friends from Hawaii in the PX and talked to him. He was a canine handler over there. He was on his way home and I was on my way over, and we just had like probably a 5-minute conversation, hey, how's it going? All that kind of stuff. And said he was doing good. Everything's good. And literally, we get into country like 4 or 5 days later, and I found out that, he took his life shortly after getting home. So, totally. And that was, I didn't know him as well as I guess
as Evan,
but I knew him enough,
Yeah, it still hurts. I mean, like we started off talking about, you build a bond with people, and it's
right. Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's our reason for doing this. We want to try and prevent that however we can. I mean, that's part of it, is trying to prevent suicide, but also to just the whole mental, physical health of veterans. I mean, totally encompassing. I mean, for me, that a lot of that is exercise, and I think the same for you is working out. So that's something we want to try and promote as well. But promoting things like that, you and I both are in the middle of doing that 250-mile bike ride for the month of July. That's for Stop Soldier Suicide.
Yeah,
promote things even like that, just to bring awareness. And
yeah, absolutely. And I for me, I've always kind of just and everybody has a story, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure probably everybody that has been in or done a tour or whatever has a story similar to what we just shared. And I think it's not just understanding and telling your friends like, hey, I'm there for you. I'm there for you. It's like, we gotta do more. We can do better.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that want to do more and they don't know what to do. And I think you and I both this is something we're passionate about. And no, I don't think either of us know where this is going to go right now, but this is what we can do. This is something that we can try and reach out. I mean, because of Evan's passing, that group message started with everybody, a lot of the people we were in Iraq with, and I think it's done a lot of good for some of those people. And everybody, that's the thing, we're going to talk probably about a lot of different things on here, and not everything's going to work for you, but what works for you and what works for me is going to be a little bit different. But sitting around doing the same thing over and over ain't going to get you there either. Yeah,
it's obviously not cutting it. And like you brought up the fitness thing, and I think it's the consistency, right? Like having a purpose.
Yeah. And I think Evan had lost a little bit of that because he wasn't working at the time. I mean, he had the farm going and all, but I can sit around all day and try and diagnose.
Right. Yeah. We have no idea.
Yeah.
You don't know what somebody's thinking, but
I know. Go ahead.
I do. I think like having and just from my own experience coming home from Iraq, I think the second deployment was the hardest for me because the first deployment I was on active duty. Yeah. So I came home and went right back into active duty. Yeah. But even those soldiers coming off of active duty into civilian life that haven't deployed, that's still hard for a lot of people because you're coming off of, that staple, that schedule.
Well, it's like, I worked at a prison, as you know, for 5 years, and inmates, they spend so much time in prison, they've become institutionalized. And when they get out of prison, a lot of them end up right back in prison, and some of it is intentional because they don't know how to deal with society. They've been institutionalized, and the same with soldiers. They've been on such a structure for so long that some people struggle to make decisions for themselves. And it's some of it's a motivation. Like, you didn't have a choice to get up and do PT every day, and now it's like, hey, I have a choice, and now you're anti-PT because you were made to,
right?
And didn't maybe realize how beneficial it was for you. I mean, I know for me, mentally and physically, when I exercise, I am in the best headspace.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't. I just physically can't do the weightlifting currently and things like that, but I got into and I'll be honest, I hated running in the Army.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I
forced
made,
runs.
I made everybody do it because I had to.
Oh yeah.
But I hated it. Yeah. And now I'm doing triathlon and the biking and the running, and I suck at swimming, but I still do it. And it part of it is that challenge of seeing what you can and can't do, obviously. But the other part of that is actually being out on a ride or a run, and I'm thinking through my day and all that kind of stuff, memories.
The things that are bothering you, you get time to just think on them,
right?
You know? And I mean, like yesterday I rode, I was getting about halfway through, and I was getting to a point where I was like, man, I'm shooting for 30 miles a day, and I'm only at like 14, and I'm struggling right now. And I thought of Evan, which I do almost every day still, and I could hear Evan in the back of my head saying, "That's good enough, buddy. That's good enough." Like, I'm thinking, forethought is I'm doing this for Evan, but
right,
I can hear him in the back. "That's good, buddy. That's good enough. You ain't got to do no more." And I just, that was cathartic for me to just think through that, and what Evan would be thinking in that time. And I know me, if he was alive, I'd be, "No, Evan, that ain't good enough."
Right.
But to him, it would have been. And when he said that, it was genuine. It was genuine. Like, yeah, that is good enough for him.